Hello and welcome back to the channel. So finally I get to bring you the KA27. Now this is a long running model that was supposed to run out, well, it's the first video after the Christmas New Year break that I had, but it's not coming out until the 14th of February because for reasons that I'll get into later. But also before anybody else comments in or makes a comment, although this is on the instructions and the rest of it as a card 27, it's definitely a KA27, even though it's in the army colours and should be therefore a KA29, with the KA27 being the naval variant and should be in a light grey. But I'm going to let that one pass. So it's finally done, and I will show you the speed build, I'll show you the pics, and then we'll get into the review. So let's crack on and build. Welcome back. So this thing, it is a fair old size. It's a good 60 centimeters long, about 50 centimeters wide, and about 30 centimeters high. So it's a big beast. Just bear that in mind, that you have somewhere to display it. Just something I didn't think of. But for the review on this, it's going to be slightly different than the normal approach. Because this is a Technics model, the normal approach that I would have with it, that everything fits and warpage and the rest of it, in a lot of ways doesn't really quite apply in the same way, so we will do it ever so slightly differently. The instructions, well, it's a good thick book, but what it could have done with is 2 thick books. And the reason I say that is this is the RC version. You get obviously a non-RC version as well, but they try and do the build or the instructions for both builds concurrently within this book, and sometimes it is very easy to move on to the wrong path with disastrous results. So one book for the RC version, one book for the non-RC version would have been very nice, thank you very much. Also, one of the big problems I had with this, and I've had many big problems with this, there are, as you would expect, you build a certain amount of components together and then you add them to another certain amount of components that you've already built, and then eventually you add them to the main build. One of the problems I found with the instructions was that, say for instance you've got 8-10 bits together, it would be very clear where 7 of those bits went, and then you'd be left with 1 bit, and you have to try and really work out where it went because it really wasn't very clear. Now, on the subject of these components that you're building in sections going together, when you are building a normal brick model, it's relatively easy. What I found with this was that you would sometimes you put 3 or 4 components together in a big lump, and now you're attaching it to what you've already built so far. The connectors, because of the certain amount of flex involved, lining up sometimes 7 or 8 connectors and getting them all in together was a bit of a nightmare. So it might take me 20 minutes, half an hour to build one component, and then another 20 minutes, half an hour to build another component. You get them together, then getting them onto the rest of the model might take me as long as having built those 2 components. There was a lot of flashing that needed to be removed from parts of this, which again slowed me right down. Now, while it's not uncommon to get a certain amount of Technics bits on a normal model, for instance the Ferdinand that I did a couple of weeks ago had the sort of frame for the road wheels as Technics bricks, and then normal bricks over the top of that. That's not, as I say, unusual. But to do a whole Technics model when you're used to just building a normal brick model is very much like learning a different language. And again, it's something that slows you down. Now, I'm fairly consistent on 200 to 250 bricks an hour, thereabouts, with a normal model. With this, completely different story. So I'm immediately going to say to anybody who's watching this that this sort of model is really it's really aimed at people that first of all have quite a lot of experience building. They have a lot of time, and they are quite happy to take that time. And I don't just mean in hours, you know, because originally I budgeted, because this is 1800 pieces, I budgeted about 8 to 10 hours to do this. And obviously you get, because it's the RC version, there's a lot of bricks I didn't use because of those being only applicable to the non-RC version, and vice versa. But this is ideal for somebody who wants a winter project, who can do an hour, 2 hours every couple of days, that type of thing, and he's quite content for this to take 2 months to build. You know, we're quite happy doing just a little section each day, and then attaching it to another section the day after, and all that type of thing. For most of you that are watching this, this is really going to be very frustrating, and it's very much a Marmite build. And for those of you who don't know what Marmite is, it's a food spread. You are either going to really love it or really hate it and want to just bash your head against a wall when you're trying to build this. Now, the other big problem that I had with this is with the bags. And the bags, there was 6 sections of bags, and there was about 6 bags in each section. And one of the problems that you had was that not all the bags in that section would have all the stuff you needed, but you didn't. You had another 30 bags. You didn't know where those bits were, and so, for instance, I think it was in section 2 where you start building the cockpit sort of area. Now, these little bits here that just define the edge of some of the canopy glass, or would have been canopy glass on a normal model. That actually comes as about a 20 centimetre strip that you cut to size. Well, that was in the very last bag of section 6 that I opened up, and it should have been in section 2. Now that in itself, because of where it is, that's not a particularly big deal. It was annoying, and at least it was there, but I can retroactively fit that. That's not too much of a problem. What is a problem is that because of the way you're building this, because it's got these sort of rivety connector things, and you've got so much gearing and all different bits and pieces in here holding it together, it's impossible, or almost impossible, to go back and refit something that you now found that you didn't think you had. And so what I mean by that is that, so there's a lot of this that moves and works. So and a lot of this I will show on the short that accompanies this review. So the rotors obviously do go round. Underneath here you've got a sort of almost a bomb bay that opens up and a winch that will come down. This ramp at the back will lower. The machine itself will drive forwards, backwards, turn, etc., etc. That's brilliant, that all works. What doesn't work is these rudders at the back are supposed to move, and you've got an aileron elevator type of thing also that's supposed to move. Now, it could be that I haven't done something right. It could be that I hadn't got something and I was missing, and I was forced essentially to carry on to try and get this model done. But eventually the bits that were missing were in later bags, but because it's now I'm so far further forward, I don't know what's missing or what's not. So if I take this apart, I'm confusing myself in where do I go back to? What's missing is it is very, very frustrating build this to do. Another thing that I found very frustrating on the instructions was that you would build something, and say you would put a connector in, you would have a small cog on the opposite side, you would have a big cog on this side, then you would put a whole lot of gubbins on this side. And then later on when you go to connect it to something else, you've still got all the big gubbins on this side, but now the big wheel is on the other side. It reversed it, and that seemed to happen quite a lot. And I was going back over it and thinking, well, no, this is what it says to do. The big wheel is on this side, and yet 3 sections later, the big wheel has now appeared on the other side, and the small cog is on this side. There was a lot of that. It was a very, very confused build. So, for the fact that I managed to get as much working as I have is a bit of a minor miracle. But as I say, I think you need to be a certain type of person and a certain type of builder to get the most out of this. Now, having looked at the TGL sort of catalogue, this is the only thing like this. They specialise predominantly in cars, there's a few trucks and that type of thing. They only do a few military models. They've got a T-34 Tiger and 1 or 2 other tanks. I think there's a Ferdinand in there as well, and a few military trucks. But this is the only thing that's not really truck or car based. So this is them stepping out of their comfort zone. This is me stepping out of my comfort zone to do this, and it's been a very steep learning experience for me on doing something like this. I'm not sure that it's one I would like to repeat. I don't mind. I'm not saying that I wouldn't do another TGL model. I'm more than happy to do a TGL model, although they are very pricey. but I think the next time I do one, it will be one of the perhaps more conventional models that they seem to be very good at. But this, well, I say this is 42.22, which I got on sale. Normally this is around the £55–60 mark. So all I can do is say, well, you know your own abilities, you know what you like, you know how patient you are. It's up to you whether you buy it. I like it, but I also look at this and remember how much I wanted to smack my head into the wall or throw this across the room at different points. And it's, yeah, I find it's, for me, it's difficult to get past that. As much as I do like it, it is a showstopper. The size of it, it's one of the few that, for instance, my wife has actually taken any notice of. Normally she'll just blank what I've done, but even she stopped and oohed and ahed about this. So there you go, that is the review for the day. I finally got the KA27 done, and hopefully you've liked this video. If you have, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you again. You take care. Bye bye.